It is my understanding that this reporting requirement is already required, so I believe that this is redundant. But there's just a few points. I'm not opposed to this amendment because we already have a requirement of reporting sexual abuse perpetrated against any athlete to the appropriate local, state, or federal authorities. But there's a couple of points that I would make in response to the statements made by the proponent of this amendment. When you talk about sexual abuse against women, one of the things that we have repeatedly heard about is women athletes being forced to undress in front of men who are in their locker room. We have heard about this mantra of please be kind and compassionate. I don't understand what is kind or compassionate about forcing female athletes to share locker rooms with male athletes. I don't understand why we are talking about the sexual abuse of women and then immediately turning and pivoting to the idea that that's happening against men. It is happening against women. We're all opposed to the sexual abuse of women. But one of the things that is being reported with men participating in female athletes is the sexual abuse aspect of this. I do not believe that it is kind or compassionate to erase biological women and girls and pretend that they are the same thing as a man who claims to be a girl. I do not believe that that is kind and compassionate. I do not believe that it is kind or compassionate to allow men and boys to dominate women's athletics. I do not believe that it is kind or compassionate to deny a girl a college scholarship because a boy was faster and stronger. I do not believe that if you read the bill that is at issue here, all we have done is not define female and male and simply state that this bill, it would prohibit a person whose sex is male from participating in an amateur athletic competition that is designated for females, women, and girls. That is the only thing that this bill does. This is not a bill about transgenderism. This is not a bill that attacks the transgender community. It is about protecting women and girls in women and girls athletics. That is all. There are biological differences between girls and boys, regardless of what someone may claim that they are. All this bill does is make sure that we are being kind and compassionate to our female athletes. But if you believe that there is a need to include this amendment, I'm not opposed to it, but we need to stop attacking us, stop attacking Republicans simply because we're trying to protect women and girls. We are very sincere in our belief that it is critically important that women and girls are able to access and participate in athletics. We believe that it is incredibly important that 13-year-old girls are able to play volleyball and basketball without the risk of being injured by a man or a boy. We are entirely sincere in protecting our families of girls and women who do not believe that their girls and women should have to compete against boys and men. With that, I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to confirm that the amendment is accepted.
Yeah, I got to call the question, which I think we should adopt the amendment too. I think that's generally understood. All those in
move to strike the last word.
Oh, gentleman from California is recognized.
I guess it's a good thing that some folks on the other side are now interested in what happens in a locker room, and we're not going to look the other way. Okay, I'll accept that. But this is something that is not a thing. It's not a thing. We have things happening in our community that are a thing. Kids getting mowed down by assault rifles at their school, that's a thing. Young women in their community having IVF treatments banned. That's a thing. Women being forced into government-mandated pregnancies, that's a thing. And those are all things that we can address in this committee. But okay, I'll play out this exercise with y'all. How are you going to enforce this? I know I'm yielding to somebody over there. Tell me, how are you going to enforce this? This is an on-demand gender check that you want to be a part of now. So who's enforcing it? Is Mr. Jordan enforcing it? Mr. Gates enforcing it? Mr. Biggs? Who is enforcing this on-demand gender check? You didn't put that into the bill. Seems a little creepy that we don't know who's going to be determining genders here. Ms. Hageman, I'm deferring to you. You're the only one that wants to speak on this. It's interesting, you're the only one who wants to speak on this. No one else will even touch this because it's kind of creepy that you're setting up on-demand gender checks. Kind of obvious.
Order, are you calling me creepy?
I'm saying it's creepy that you're setting up an on-demand gender check and you won't tell us how you're going to enforce it.
May I respond to that? Will you engage in it colloquially?
Tell me how you're going to enforce it, yes.
Well, according to the U.S. boxing transgender policy, they're the ones that plan on doing the inspection. The athlete has declared that her gender identity is female and has completed gender reassignment surgery. So
how
not
do they inspect
protecting
it?
girls and women
How do they inspect it?
protects us. That, I guess you're going to have to ask the Boxing Association.
Shouldn't you know? This is your bill.
They're the ones that have adopted the policy.
I reclaim my time. They don't know. They don't know. They see a small issue that's happening in a few communities, and they want to extrapolate that across America, and they want you to think it's a thing. It's not a thing. There are things. Gun violence, fertility bans, government-mandated pregnancies, those are things. This is not a thing. Ms. Jackson-Lee, who has a bill to address the targeted violence against the transgender community, that's a thing. That's something we should be working on. This is not a thing, and so I just invite my Democratic colleagues who have so passionately spoke on this to continue to passionately speak on this, but to just reject this as a thing. And thank you for caring about what happens in locker rooms. I yield back.